those I am statements, it's fascinating because they're super powerful and they're very profound. Yet we just tend to throw them away by saying, I'm stupid or I'm a failure or, you know, X, Y, and Z. That isn't truth. And those are throwaway comments, but we don't recognize how powerful they are.
Why
And
am I so bad at this?
yeah, yeah. Why is everyone else achieving this and I'm not?
Hmm.
It's like those are there's so many ways that we phrase these power statements,
Hmm.
and so no wonder we're in the average of 98%,
Yeah.
because if we're so busy telling the world, our inner world, and therefore our outer world, what we're not, then how can we have any awareness of who we are?
And I want to thank you for being willing to just
Pivot.
pivot,
Mhm.
and
Insert Ross up the
insert
stairs.
Ross Geller right now. But to pivot and be willing to be vulnerable and share, because I don't ever want those who are listening to our podcast or come to our events or support us as we're supporting them in any way to think that we don't experience the same things that they do, because we all experience these things. We're just offering tools that we've either created, acquired, just because we know and we've used them. They assisted us so deeply, and we know that they can assist others, and we want to share. We've used them in coaching, we've used them in family settings. So we just want to help. That doesn't mean that we ourselves don't have our own moments, and we want to be vulnerable and transparent in sharing those with the community as well, so that they can simultaneously see how we navigate through them. Sometimes the best way to learn how to navigate through something is to watch someone else do it, right? And what is a guide if not someone to show you the path? So thank you for being willing to be a guide real time, because this literally just happened 5 minutes before we hit record on this one.
Pain is real.
So you were actively navigating the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still there a little bit, not gonna lie.
Still a little
Still
fresh.
really frustrating, still very fresh. Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, this isn't there's a lot more vulnerable things I could dive into that are very painful. But
Just rip the Band-Aid off, baby,
yeah.
go for it.
But I do appreciate you pointing this out, and yeah, because it is, like, just happening, and we are doing there's a lot of doing right now, in terms of our actions,
Yeah.
um, as we are really ramping up and Sweetwater is really taking the next level. A lot of our time is focused. I mean, we don't have a lot of downtime right now.
Right.
And so, redoing an episode when we just spent the time to create it is just, it's like, oh, there's another thing, right? I feel those things too. Like in the moment, I was like, "God, I feel so stupid," and here I am. Like I mean, we have a podcast in this. I contributed to this book. Cameron, I've had tens of thousands of conversations on this. I've been doing this for more than a decade. Like I and it still happens, and even in the silliest thing, and ultimately, I'm probably not even gonna really remember this other than the fact that it's now on YouTube forever.
It's
So I
now
guess now,
officially
yeah,
on all of the podcast platforms, and people are going to come up to you and say, I remember the episode
yeah.
where you said you felt stupid.
Yeah. Thanks, babe. That could have been a moment that just left my memory, and it could have been safe and good in life and everything. But now it is on the internet.
See, I don't have
Yeah.
to remind you. Other people will do it for
Yeah.
me.
Thank you.
I just, to me, it's important so much that everyone understands how one, just how open you are and that you're willing to share these things too. And so am I always. But two, that I could actively see you kind of self-deprecating, right? You were quiet. You were stone quiet. You weren't saying anything until I was like, "Okay, we're gonna need to move through this if we're gonna film another podcast." And you were like, "I just need a minute." Like, "Okay, yeah, he's over there doing all of the internal negative self-talk."
Mhm.
And we just did a podcast talking about how to not do that. And we're getting ready to film another podcast about tools to work through it. So, why don't we just real time talk about how no matter how much you have all the tools in your arsenal, that doesn't mean that that inner critic won't rise up and go, gotcha, and pull you right back down. But the length of time that that inner critic grabs you and keeps you held captive is the difference. A few minutes versus a few hours versus a few days, right? Versus a few months. It begins to trend differently.